She had it on here a second ago when you guys were testing it, so I just gotta figure where she, like, I sent it to her, so.
Are you sure it was? Just keeps getting worse today. So the bottle of water.
Man, is my presentation on here?
Kelly's gonna do your presentation for you
Oh, okay.
from her computer, and then we're
I
gonna.
saw it come up on the screen somewhere,
So
so.
once.
Anytime
Is
you
that okay,
wanna,
James, or would you
Yeah,
prefer
no,
to-
that's fine. Yeah.
prefer to drive? Cause you can if you want.
Oh, no.
So once we get to this point.
you'd like hers, John, they're quick.
Yeah.
This piece.
Yeah,
She doesn't
Okay.
mess around.
okay.
Okay, is somebody gonna,
Or it doesn't matter. Should I stand up or sit down, or it doesn't matter?
We'll call the meeting to order, our infrastructure committee meeting for March 26, 2026. Welcome everyone here today. Could I have a motion to approve the agenda, please?
So move.
Moved by Marty, seconded by John. All those in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, if any? Motion carried. Do we have any conflicts of interest to disclose today on the agenda? Hearing none, we're good. So we have James Donald here with us today and with Explore Everywhere Media. And James is gonna take us down the Blue Trail based economic development and connectivity report. So welcome, James.
Thank you. Kelly, you were gonna start it? Oh, there we go. Okay. Like we said, my name is James Donald with Explore Everywhere Media. I'm gonna cover two things today. Is the Blue Trails, which was the core project, and then there's an add-on that was building a tool to bring everything together, ATV trails, snowmobile trails, cycling trails, and the Blue Trails, so a bit of a tool there. So what Explore Everywhere Media is, my background is started with building the Hiking MB website, which is a guide to hiking across the province for all the trails in the province, which led to a Paddling MB website, which led to work with David Seabrook in the Fredericton side of things and led to this project. So we're basically trying to map every route and access point in the province for paddling and put that on the website. So that's the goal. For this plan, the goal for this project was to build a strategy around blue trails in the region. And that covers all the municipalities. So maybe next slide. I think it has a list of the objectives there. So the goals of the project was to increase tourism, improve accessibility, sustainability, and foster community partnerships. So the start of that project was contacting many people as I could, talk to a few in this room. Anybody who wanted to talk about boating, from conservation groups to First Nations to business owners, anybody, I talked to them. So to build up a current state was the, there's the interview side of things there. So boating enthusiast, the goal was, essentially the questions were, what do you have out there now that you know about as assets? So building that current assets side of things. And then once that was figured out, is going to the next level was, it ended up with 64 recommendations in the recommendation side of things. So, and a little bit of analysis in between. So just a couple of key principles that I used for the project was municipal alignment. And what I mean by that is, if you look at the report, when you get your hands on it, it's broken down by each municipality and how everything fits into that municipality. And then that's rolled up into the bigger goals of the region itself. So, and the other one was build demand first. I talk a lot about making sure that the demand's there before we jump straight to services and start trying to build services out and not sure if the demand's there, to make sure that any service providers that happen are sustainable. So, and that's, the font's a little weird on that, but that's essentially the way I worked up through it was enhance the assets. So a lot of the recommendations are on the current access and how to improve them. And then there's ones on building partnerships with the different groups, and then the building demand and building services, what I mentioned, so. I'm going through this pretty quick. I've got about 10 minutes probably for these slides. It's to give context of what the report is. The report ended up being a 95-page report. But along with that, with the current state is a map, and I'll touch on the map in a minute in more detail, and the details of what's on the map. But the strategic report ended up being current state was the first part, so getting an idea of what's on the ground now and what's in the region for assets. SWOT analysis is just a look at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for the region, what the region has to offer in general. So a little bit of analysis, and like I say, the last section of the report is the strategy and recommendations. And the recommendations are a mix of municipal specific ones and regional general ones. Oh, I keep wanting to go ahead in those slides. So the deliverables were three things: was the map, and I'll show you the map here in a second in a little bit more detail. The map, the report, and along with the map is a spreadsheet with all the details behind the map, and that's everything. All of the water access points were confirmed with Service New Brunswick for property ownership, because that's a big part of moving things forward. For instance, a third of the ones that aren't official yet are on DTI lands at the end of roads or by bridges, and there's a lot of them are tied up with DTI. So making those official is one of the recommendations, and talking to DTI about that. So the map has several layers. I'll show you the map in a second, but ended up with 112 water access points across the region, which I think I started with 50 and thought I knew most of them, but drove around lakes, drove around all the rivers, and looked for Crown land on Nashwauk and on Macadamic to try and find access points where there wasn't one. So ended up 112 access points. This wasn't just a paddling project. This was a boating project in general. So did a lot of work around marinas, looking at the fueling stations, dumping stations, all the stuff that's required there for further down the river, with access to the Bay of Fundy, that side of things, but also above the dam with the houseboats and the sailboats. So, and then 54 businesses, which is everything from tubing rental companies, kayak rental companies, to restaurants near water, anybody that has a business that's associated with water. Another important part in the tourism side of things is 103 accommodations, a lot of which ended up being, there's a lot of Airbnbs around the lake, so, which I don't think is a surprise, but it rated those as ones that have boats available, ones that have water access, and ones that have direct water access, and ones that have water access that is not right associated with the lot. So, but the accommodations part is important on the tourism side of things, because if we get people to come here and enjoy the waterways, then we want to have a way to keep them here and make the most of tourism dollars. And then 10 attractions is just stuff that you can see out on the water when you're out on the water, so. Oh, can you click on the map and the link to the map? Do a little bit more detail on that. And it's all right if it doesn't. That's fine, I can just explain it. The maps, the general breakdown of the map, and it's a Google Maps map that you see there. And as soon as you have the link, you can go in and you can start playing with it. But there's a few more layers in this. Businesses is broke down in a bit more layers, but essentially it has the water access points as a layer, the marinas and fueling stations as a layer, restaurants as a layer. So it has a breakdown of all the layers that you can turn on and off, and if you want to look at, and you can zoom in and look at your specific municipality or a specific area. And it has the regional outline. So in the report, there's references to this map, so you just have to click on the link and go to this. That's the more detailed map, which we'll get into, I think. Anyways.
That has all the trails.
Yeah, that's the Yellow Trails one. That's fine, that's what's wrong there. You might as well go back to the presentation, but you can see each of the links. If you check off those check boxes, same format. If you check off those check boxes, then you can turn on and off different layers, and I'll touch on that map in a minute. So back to the slides. Like I say, I want to give a general overview and a context for when you get it and the best way to go through it, because there's a lot of detail too. And willing to talk about any of the detail if anybody ever wants to talk about the details, so, or has questions about it. So next slide. So like I say, there's three parts. There is current state, a little bit of analysis, and the recommendations. And the recommendations are again broken down by municipality and general ones that are applicable to the region itself. And this is just a general summary. I think there's 64, 65 recommendations in all. A lot of them are around access. Like I say, with DTI land, a lot of the boat access points, some of them are in really good shape and used a lot, but they're not official. There's no signage. So if you don't know about them, then you wouldn't know that whether they're useful or not. So a lot of recommendations around access. Like I said about Nashwauk, trying to find access to Nashwauk for a canoe run. There's no real official access to Nashwauk above Marysville, essentially. Lots of places that people use, but none that are official. And proposed access to Macadavic River that's on Crown land that might be an option. So 25 recommendations around access. Events and training is another one. One to build up the local boating culture, and on top of that is that local boating culture is a platform for promoting what we have to the rest of the world. If we don't have that local boating culture that's excited about the waterways, it'll be hard to market things to the rest of the world. Services and service providers, so there's some recommendations there. Invasive species is a huge part of the conversation. Went to a meeting with Harvey last night, and I'd say 75% of the conversation was around invasive species. The two that are the issue are zebra mussels and Eurasian water milfoil, and they're both in the St. John River, and nobody wants them to get into the lake. So that's, the Invasive Species Council has resources to help mitigate that risk. So there's recommendations around that. Recommendations around on potential partners, and then promotion gets a little bit into the future promotion side of things, and that talks more about the upcoming Woolastook Watershed website that Dave Seabrook's working on with the Frederick Capital Region Tourism, and the Paddling MB website on top of that. So promoting in good stewardship through the invasive species and giving people the information they need to get out there. And then signage is the other thing. Like I say, there's a big difference when you show up to a boat launch. If there's signage, it makes it official and people, it's welcoming, versus if you just show up and you're not sure if you're on private property or so. So next slide. So I won't go into the details on this. I just wanted to give examples of what those recommendations look like. And I kind of pulled out one for each of the different municipalities and the general one in general. So an example of one for the general is the invasive species mitigation and signage. So different ways to mitigate that risk, whether it's through education, signage, communication, working with Invasive Species Council has group paddles that they go out and actually take people and show them what the invasive species look like. So access examples, like I say, with the rural district, Portobello National Wildlife Area is one that's difficult to get into and great asset, beautiful spot to explore. I mentioned Harvey Lake or Macadavic River access is one for Harvey. Fredericton Junction, developing that Pride's Landing boat launch or something equivalent to open up that upper end of the Oromocto River is important. Hanwell, access to McKinley Ferry boat launch, which is probably my most used boat launch, is right below the fish hatchery there. But it crosses private land, DTI land, DNR land. It crosses 4 different property owners, and it's starting to wash out, so, which is a challenge. Sunbury York South, support Hanson Nature Preserve. That includes everything now from hiking trails to boat launches. So supporting Robin Hanson in that initiative. New Maryland, no waterways, unfortunately, so the focus will be more on green trails, so. And I'll get into the other map that we have there too. So then Oromocto develop a rental service to replace, I know there's a rental service, I think, lined up for Fredericton now to replace at the Aquatic Center. But there's a gap still, I think, in Oromocto waterfront. Arcadia, Gagetown Marina is a big topic of conversation and what's gonna happen there. It's up for sale and there's concern about that longer term sustainability of that marina, so is in question. Grand Lake, access to Salmon River above the Stuart McLeod Park. There's no real official access that I know about anyways to the Salmon River, so which would open up that whole river for a destination. Access to Nashwauk River, I mentioned, rental service, sounds like David Seabrook, he's online today. It sounds like he's got something lined up for there now, so that was one of the recommendations. And Central York, access to the Keswick River. So there's 7 rivers across the region and they pull together all the municipalities, so everybody's impacted some. And for Nakwik Millville, which is near and dear to my heart because I live there, is to continue developing their, they've done a lot of work on fishing tournaments and building up a market for fishing in the area, so continuing that. So that's just a few examples. Like I said, there's 65 more. If you get into it and you have questions, and anytime, just reach out. The other thing that the report has is a section on measuring success, because with any good strategy, you want to measure it over time to make sure that if things change, then you want to make adjustments to it. And these are just a few examples. I think I have 7 or 8 more examples that on ways that the success of this strategy could work. And that's everything from QR codes or logbooks at boat launches to figure out who's using them, and online surveys are a few examples, so. I think we're coming close to the end of it. Yeah, so does anybody have any questions? I'll leave it there. Like I say, I quickly went through it to give context for how you might approach the report and the resources. And after this, I'll touch on another add-on project that we. Is there any questions?
Any questions online, Kelly?
My computer's frozen. There we go.
Do we have any questions online for James?
No hands are up, Mr. Chair.
Bob has one.
Oh,
Yes,
Unmute yourself, Bob.
you're on mute, Bob.
Here we go. How's that?
There you go.
On the Thatch Road in Lincoln, which now is part of town of Oromocto, we have a launch there too that's not been mentioned.
That's on the map and that's in the details.
Oh, it's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. There's been a lot of work done over that in the last few years, so it's good to see.
Great. Thank you.
Any further questions online? Any in the room? You're free to continue on, James.
Okay, I'll continue on. Like I said, that was the Blue Trails project. Once you get it in your hands and you dig into it, if you have questions, let me know. But beyond that, and Jihad with Gemtech did a lot of work on the green trail side of things. And we pulled everything together in this tool. I think if we show the map.
Have first time testing this technology here. We tested before the meeting, worked fine.
It's shown red.
Are you still sharing?
No.
Strange.
You need to go to that.
There is a delay. Like I was pressing next slide and it wasn't coming, so.
It's telling us that it should be working, but it's not projecting, so
Few technical difficulties, we'll try to get them ironed out here shortly.
Maybe
All she needs is a link, so. Actually, she already had the link because she brought it up earlier. Kelly, can you go back to that map slide and bring up the link there?
Oh.
We should have had one ready.
Yeah, there it
Yeah,
is.
there you go. She got it.
You want my mouse?
So are we?
Yeah, that's it.
She's in control now.
You may have to come over here to do it, but
I can probably just walk you through. I mean, it's more just explain.
Okay.
So what this is an extension of what with the Blue Trails was focused on strictly the waterways and the strategy around that. Like I say, Jihad with the Gemtech side of things worked on the green trails. So we had a bit of a joint add-on at the end to bring that all together into a single tool, which is a map that includes the Blue Trails. It actually includes the accommodations and stuff too, but it includes the Blue Trails, all the hiking trails, ATV trails and snowmobile trails in the region. So you can easily look at for a specific area or for a specific location. Maybe if you can zoom in on, I don't know what the preference. It's a bit busy with everything on there and zoomed out, but essentially the layers are, you can see the municipality boundaries. The green are the hiking trails, red are ATV trails, blue are snowmobile trails, and you can turn on and off those different layers. And I think that covers them. And then the blue trails are a little bit different where they're the water access point and not routes themselves. So. And one thing I forgot to mention in the Blue Trails, now that we're zoomed in on the Blue Trails side of things, the map is rated as, there's 3 different ratings for water access points. One is there's no issues with ownership, and the access is great. So example, Harvey Lake would be one that, like, beautiful boat launch, it's for the public, it's by the municipality, there's no issues there. Second layer down is access is a little more difficult, so it'd be with a canoe or kayak where you can't put a motorboat in the water. Third layer down is there's questions about ownership or the access needs upgraded. So that's what the color coding is on the Blue Trail side of things, and that corresponds to the spreadsheet that has all the details on that. So for instance, if you zoom down on Harvey, you see the blue is the snowmobile trails. They overlap a lot with the ATV trails, and sometimes you have to turn off the snowmobile trails to see where the ATV trails are underneath it. But the red are the ATV trails, green are the hiking trails. There's a lot more attractions tied into there. When we pulled in hiking, if you noticed before, there's 10 attractions on the water. But when you pull in the hiking trails, it's all the waterfalls, it's everything you'd see on a hiking trail. So it pulls in a lot more of them. I forget what the number ended up being. So, but each of the layers breaks down onto that. So I think, the other part of that, the spreadsheet that goes with it has a bit of a breakdown on distance. I wish I could show it, but it has an analysis of distances to the ATV trails, snowmobile trails for different locations. So if you look at different locations, there's a breakdown of the distance. So you can start looking at, and I did it for different layers. So you can look at accommodations or restaurants, and you can start to see which ones accommodate water, which ones accommodate ATVs. You can start to break that out in more detail. So it's easier to look at that way, if that makes sense. That's pretty much it for that side of things. And again, there's a lot of detail here. So if you have questions, once you dig into it, then let me know. Or if you have boat launches specifically that aren't on here, I'd be very interested to know about them.
Okay, any questions for James on this last portion, this presentation? Yeah.
In in this picture you were showing on Harvey, you were saying the blue lines are the ATV
The blue,
and
are-
snowmobile, or just ATV?
the blue are just snowmobile and the red
Okay.
are ATV, but they overlap
Okay.
and the snowmobile will cover up the blue. So sometimes you have to turn off the snowmobiles to see where the ATV trails are.
Okay, because it's, the private land issue is so important to understand that in the snowmobile side and the problems that it can cause in the ATV side are significant if we. So you shut off the layer, if you shut off the snowmobile layer, you will see the ATV
Yeah.
trails and if it's there.
And just a note on the, at least on the ATV side of things, it was, that layer was created from their website, so if any work or anything you wanted to make public or anything, you'd have to work with the ATV Federation to put that out there.
Okay, you good on that answer? Okay, any other questions?
David,
Yes, Grant.
when you talk about connectivity of a green trail, it's quite obvious what you mean. Can you speak a little bit about blue trail connectivity? Are you talking mainly about mapping there or?
Yes, connectivity as far as this project went is, there's a lot of stuff that's specific to a municipality like Oromocto Boat Launch, like stuff that's very specific to, but there's other ones that cross over, like the rivers and stuff that cross over municipalities, so some of it is rolling it up at that level, but it's essentially talks about in the report how all of that fits together into the bigger picture.
So
I mean, it's a little bit more straightforward with rivers, that it connects different municipalities, but a lot of the municipalities have a lot of lakes in them too, so it's how all those pieces work together into the bigger picture. Does that make sense?
yeah, so you're speaking more or less just providing more public access for put in, take out spots. would
Yeah,
be different,
yeah.
but-
Because like I say, I mean, it goes beyond the paddling side, which I tend to bias towards, because that's what I'm involved in more, but it also talks about the market of the Eastern Seaboard for bringing people up from the Bay of Fundy into that lower St. John River Valley system. How the houseboats above the dam fit into that and where the gaps are in that. So it's how, there's a few networks, even the marinas with Gagetown in the center of that is it's almost the center of a hub of fueling stations in that area. So it's that connectivity of how that all fits together, so.
James, I heard on the news, I don't know how much of Alberta, but part of their water systems are closed for this coming summer. Some or all,
Okay.
or do you ever foresee that happening in New Brunswick? Because of the invasive species?
I haven't seen anything on that. I mean.
I just read it quickly. I don't know if it was all of it or some parts or some of
Yeah,
it
I don't know
closed.
what the specifics are. Like there's different layers of the invasive species. The ones I talk about in the report are, like I say, the zebra mussel and the Eurasian milfoil. But I saw something go with the fishing permits now that has like invasive species fish, so don't live catch them and put them in other lakes kind of thing. And that's a whole other side of invasive species.
So it's possible they have a different invasive species maybe than what's here.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Like even the zebra mussel wasn't an issue 2 years ago because it just started getting into the province through Edmundston, through the water system there. But I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think they found some in Mactaquac last year. So where Eurasian milfoil is, I mean, St. John River Valley, pretty much, it's all through it now, so. It's more how to mitigate that with, some of the recommendations are DFO, Invasive Species Council has tons of information on that. But one of the things I found out talking to them is that the DFO has 3 mobile washing units. And the washing units, it's important for them to be hot water and pressurized. The hot water kills the larvae for the zebra mussels, I guess. So I think one of the recommendations is to leverage those portable ones because it gets expensive and you're not gonna put a washing station out behind Oromocto Lake. Like, it doesn't make sense. So like, you have to have the infrastructure to do that.
Thanks.
So the education part's critical in that side of things.
Yes, the signage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beyond signage, social media, like in the Harvey meeting last night, they talked about all of the different ways that education should happen, so.
Okay, any other questions? Yes.
Just a comment, David, one of the issues that have come up in our meetings is that I think will be a takeaway for us for certain is that so we have as we increase access for others, we have a NIMBY issue coming from owners on lakes in particular. And that has to be managed and dealt with. And we're finding that the recommendation we're kind of hearing is that if we have good, well-managed access points, that allows us to deal with a lot of the negatives and positives, I guess, at the same time. So it's known where it is. It can be on the map. You can have washrooms and garbage and also the signage for education, those things. And so I think that's a direction that is harder for us to go in, but we will be going in that direction rather than simply opening up an access point and making a place to park. And people will still find those, but the ones that are under our name you will know what you're going to have, I think, when you get there. The services will be there, and that should help with a lot of the negatives that could possibly come out of larger numbers of individuals using our waterways. So.
Yes, I fully agree with you, Richard, and I think all the municipalities should be leaning in that direction. It might take some time, some municipalities longer than others, but I think we all need to lean and get there eventually, so.
I was surprised on my visits last year on how many of the remote boat launches have signage now around invasive species, so. But I almost think that because there's so much of it, it gets glossed over, like you don't think about it as much. So that's where I think social media and there's gotta be a full swath of ways to educate on it.
Any further questions? Last call. Seeing none? Thank you very much,
Thank you very
James.
much. Yeah,
Very, very much appreciated.
yeah.
So we'll now call on Jihad Hilzheimer from Gemtech, and he will go over the trail connectivity report, the green trails.
Yes,
Welcome.
thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually went over the report last meeting. This meeting will refresh your memory and go over the framework, the funding framework, and get some input from you on some numbers there. So just a quick refresh. We've been working with James here to advance the trail connectivity, and we overlaid the blue trails and green trails. So this program and what we're going to present here, anytime you hear the word trail, it could mean a green trail or it could mean a blue trail. So we focused on understanding the community's interest, identifying priority connections, developing a funding access process, which I'm going to present today. And this funding process is intended to fund both the planning for trail connectivity or enhancements or actual projects and improvements. So the funding program has the key goals is structured and transparent process, basically is the intention. Support coordinated regional planning, improve existing trail connections, encourage development of new trail links, and that's intended to connect communities, not within the community, unless it's a trail used as a potential corridor to connect the other community. Ensure fair and transparent distribution of funds, and to support both green and blue trails. The program would have two streams. Stream number one is more for the route development and planning. Stream number two is more for actual work, which is improving the trail or the level of service on existing trail or establishing brand new connections. And I'll dive into more details about some examples in a bit. The eligibility is obviously you have to be a member of the Capital Region Service Commission. You will be the primary applicant, the receiver of the fund. However, you can team up with a community organization to improve trail connectivity. It doesn't have to be you, but you have to be the partner and you are the recipient of the funds. The project would take place within the boundaries of the Capital Region Service Commission. Last time a question came about if there's a community at the boundary with another regional service commission, would they be able to apply? The answer is yes. They would be the primary applicant. The funds would go to work within the boundary of the municipality, which is a member of the Capital Region. And what's also very important, the cost sharing is minimum 1-for-1. So for every dollar you receive, you have to be able to contribute $1. And that's stipulated by the fund itself, not by where the money is coming from, not by the Capital Region itself. In terms of administration, obviously there's going to be a simple application form you fill out about the project and the project cost and what's connecting, so on and so forth. And there will be an agreement as a result with the Capital Region to receive the funding. Some examples of eligible activities under Stream 1, trail connectivity studies. So you want to see which community you want to connect to. Gap analysis, feasibility studies, to assess how much it's going to cost you to connect. Conceptual design and route planning for those who know exactly where they want to connect to, but they want to move the design forward, or stakeholder engagement. These are just examples. In the framework, we are recommending equal amount, equal allocation to all the communities for Stream 1. And right now we're starting with $5,000. When this is matched, it becomes $10,000. Now, if the community is advanced and they don't need to do the plan because they have it, their share could go towards the actual implementation. They wouldn't lose that amount. And if they can't match it, then they won't be able to take advantage of it, basically. There's nothing magical about the 5,000. We made it so that it's affordable for the smaller communities, so they're able to match it with 5K. But if the committee feels that 10,000 is better, or 7,500, or 15, really, at this point, it's for discussion and for input. A lot of bigger communities are established and they know where they're going to connect to, and they probably won't need this amount for planning purposes. They would carry it over to do actual implementation. So if everybody's getting $5,000, then, for example, Ormocto and Fredericton will get this 5,000, but use it for actual implementation work, not necessarily for planning. So yeah, Stream 1, the idea is everybody gets the same amount. If you don't want to use it for planning, you can choose to use it for implementation. And if you don't want to use it for planning or for implementation, then that money goes back to the pool. Okay. Stream 2 activities, if you want to do some surface upgrades, safety improvements, crossing improvements, wayfinding and signage, accessibility upgrades, you want to have some amenities along the trail, or construct a brand new trail connection. These are all examples, and I say not limited to. I just came up with these bullets, but you may have something that's beyond those and definitely would be considered. It's very important that the fund gets expensed before March 2028, by the end of March 2028. So again, projects have to be finished by then, or at least the funding share from this fund would be expensed by this time. Like half the project is complete, for example. So in order to come up with this funding model, we looked at two criteria: population served by the project and the cost of the project. And the points were allocated 50-50, equal emphasis. So the rationale is if somebody's building an expensive project, they would get more money, more support from this fund. And if that project is serving larger populations, obviously it would be have more importance for the regional population, and hence the 50 points on the population served. The framework we built can adjust these percentages easily. Like if you want to have 40 points on population and 60 on price, you could easily do that as well. Again, it's a starting point, but if somebody challenged that criteria, we're able to adjust very easily. And the total score of the project becomes the score of the population plus the score of the cost. And we'll see a demonstration. Tried as much as we can to demonstrate fairness and accountability. And it's through predefined allocation formulas, standardized scoring criteria, transparent calculation for funding shares, public documentation of results, and reporting back to the capital region. So to recap, just to make sure everybody knows exactly how they can benefit from this fund. A, they have to be a member of the capital region. They have to have a project, and that project is within the boundaries of the capital region. You should be able to match the contribution from the capital region, and the project must be completed before March 2028. All of the above has to be a check if you want to access this fund. Okay? So this is the eligibility in a nutshell. Now we can go to the example. I'm going to stop sharing this slide and share fund distribution framework. Okay. So anything in blue is the cells that we have to adjust. Say there's $450,000 in the fund, and stream one, the minimum you want to give everybody is 5,000. If you choose to select 8,000, it's as easy as going like that. The remaining funds automatically get allocated to stream two. Okay. Then this is obviously will have to be sorry, it's not my PC, so I'm trying to figure out how to scroll down. So this is the body of the framework. If there's a connection between Fredericton and Nashwauk, the population served is automatically calculated based on the population that is adopted by the capital region. The population score is calculated for this project. If it's costing 500,000, could be 600,000 if you wish, whatever the case may be. The cost gets a score and the project gets a total score. Something is messed up here. No, it's more than that. Maybe it's not the latest. Sorry, folks. Um,
But I have it on my computer somewhere.
See, I just don't know where it's pulling it from, so let's see if this one is a little better. Anyway, it's kind of embarrassing, but the idea is, and I know it works. You put all the projects in this project hopper, and the program automatically calculates the score for the population and the score for price, and it allocates certain amount of funding. And then that funding is allocated for the project itself. If, let's say, in the Fredericton Nashwauk example, if Fredericton is paying 20% of the project and Nashwauk is paying 80% of the project, the funds get allocated based on the agreement between these two communities. So Fredericton will get 20% of the funding from the capital region and Nashwauk will get 80%. If they're going into it 50-50, then the funding gets distributed to the exact same agreement that the communities have between them. So, yes, something broke here and it's messing everything up, I guess. Yeah, and it's not gonna change the fundamentals of the framework. It's based on population and cost. Any questions? Oh, okay, I know what's happening here.
So I have a question, if it's appropriate, I guess. I'm assuming this is RSDF funding that we're redirecting.
Yes.
And the formula kind of makes sense from a distribution point of view, but it doesn't make sense from a trail development point of view. In the development of a trail system, often there are critical connections that will bring the whole piece together. And I think those have to be thought through a little bit as well. We might be willing to see an investment, for example, that made sure that the York Sunbury South connection could be completed through a piece of ground that is difficult, so that everyone could arrive into our trail system and come upstream from there. The other question I had is, and I think I'm right, but
Director Corey, just interrupt for a moment. I assume you meant RSSF funding.
Excuse me, and I should know, right?
Well, I didn't say that.
You can. It's all right. Yes, that's what I meant. Yes. So once those funds are released into a project, they're not funds from that fund. They're funds from the Regional Service Commission. So I'm thinking that it's possible that those funds could be stackable with the RDC funding as well.
Through you, Mr. Chair, they are stackable, yeah.
Okay. So that's, I think that's an important piece for some of us, anyway. And that would make them stackable with other possible, even Building Canada funds as well, so, okay. It's just that in the end, what we want is to be able to get on our ATV and move from any community in the capital region to any community in the capital region with ease, and we may have to stop and spend some extra money on some of the connecting pieces, is all I'm saying, that as this moves along, rather than simply two communities always coming together.
Through you, Mr. Chair, this program is not specifically for ATVs. Definitely it could be used for ATV trails if you choose to, but if, let's say, Fredericton and New Maryland want to connect an via active transportation trail, then this fund could be used for that. If same applies for any neighboring community, if they want to connect via active transportation, they can apply to this fund as well. But you're right, the idea is to have interconnectivity between communities and improve that.
Yeah, just,
Anything further, Richard? Okay, yes, Grant?
just further to Mayor Corey's comment about connectivity. The way I read this, we're only talking about those sections of trail that would be connecting existing trail. This program's not about bettering a community trail that already exists within a municipality or building a trail within a municipality. I think it's clear when you read the details that that's what we're talking about.
If there's an existing trail connecting two communities and you wish to improve it, then you could apply for this program as well.
But so I think, based on that discussion, like I feel there's a need, there will be a need to consider how the commission would define a trail that's considered to be providing an intermunicipal connection, right? Like we talked a little bit about it at the last committee meeting, right? Recognizing there could be a broad wilderness between any two municipalities, but that wilderness does technically, exist within one municipality only. So like we've got to be able to define what would make up that portion of trail that we would consider a connection.
But that's where your 80 and 20%, just to take an arbitrary number, would come in, right? Or it could be 40, 60, or depending on what lies in each municipality.
Right. To your point, Mr. Chair, if 100% of the funding of the trail is within one community, then that community is basically contributing 100% to the project. They got the 100% of the fund. But the population calculation they would take advantage of the population of the community they are connecting to. So in this particular example here, I had arbitrarily said Tracy and Fredericton Junction, let's say. If Tracy want to build it alone without any contribution from Fredericton Junction, the population of both communities will factor in. So Tracy would have a little bit better scoring on the population than going alone. And sorry, now the program is working. I figured out it was a small bug.
I think our CEO maybe had a question here.
Shahad, I think in all fairness to Grant's point, that would, part of that, looking at the definition of that, Grant, I think would be part of that review process in the application, so that we can ensure that the two are connecting and that, it meets that kind of criteria. I agree with what you're saying in terms of that, but I think that can be handled through the application process or the vetting committee as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if that helps or not, but. Yeah.
No, it does. I just think it would be easy, like it potentially could be easy just to get into working on community-based trails as opposed to those interconnections that
The linkages.
we had originally talked about.
I just, can we talk a bit about logistics here before everybody gets too far down the road? It's now March 2026. So this means to all those communities out there that are thinking about accessing this funding that your trail is now finished 2 years from now. I'm asking the question, how many of you can logistically do that? I know 2 communities that can, but I'm just asking the question because I don't make the timing on this funding. I understand that this funding has a lifespan that has to be spent by March of 2028. I agree with the principles that we're trying to use here. I'm just trying to ascertain how many communities are going to be able to do this, because what I would say is we may want to consider the planning phase and allowing communities to access more on the planning side, because I can see them developing a plan within 24 months, but I can't see them developing a plan, executing a capital project and finishing it within 24 months. So I just want to put that out there because I know it's a lot of work for a lot of the communities, and I'm not sure if they can make that work.
You know how the system works, don't you?
I do.
Mr. Chair, if I may. I think, John, to your point, I think it's an excellent point. I think the other caveat to that is that this isn't a huge amount of money. You've stated that before, and I'm not trying to be flippant or anything. I'm just, I listened to that. And, like you say, it's not a huge amount of money. So in order to plan and execute a project for 2027, to be completed by no later than March 31st, 28, I don't know, are the smaller projects that stringent, or is it just the bigger projects?
No, for me, it just goes back to Grant's point, right? Is that then we're most likely talking about interconnectivity that already exists. Most likely, right? Because you got a tight timeline and you don't have a lot of money. And that's fine. I'm saying this because I want to establish the actual fact when this comes down the road. And if everybody likes this idea, then that's perfect. I just want people to understand what it means, because I do know how to do this and work this, but I don't know if everybody else has the same appreciation for what Jihad's just shown us. So
yeah,
that's all. I like the idea. I think the principles are sound. But I'm one to want to tell everybody, here's the whole picture and here's what it means, in case I would never want the board to make a decision on a false premise. That's all.
I can appreciate what you're saying because I come from a small municipality and it would be extremely difficult for us to plan and execute by March of 28. We don't have a lot of staff. It's just extremely difficult. The 2 big municipalities are well established and rooted and could do this much easier than probably the other 10 or 12 of us municipalities. So just my thought on that, going by what you have stated.
Mr. Chair, if I may add a few things as well here. When it comes to new projects, the engineering plans of such is considered stream 2. So for example, if you know you're going to connect with your neighboring municipality, you don't need a plan to tell you that. You could use the funds to start developing engineering drawings and cost estimates for that project using this fund over the next 2 years. Another thing to highlight is you could choose to partner up with existing communities or existing organizations established in the trails business and leverage this fund to help them. Take signage as an example. If Quad MB is wanting to provide better signage in the capital region, then anybody could apply partnering up with them and leverage this fund as well. So yes, it is a tight timeline, and yes, those who have projects ready to go would benefit the most. But there are ways to access those funds in a fair way as well.
Okay. Do you wanna, you said you got your program straightened out there?
Yeah, if you want to give me like an example, I could run through it. Yeah, it's straightened out now.
Yeah, we're getting near the end of time, but I'm sure you can.
I think, Dr. Sweeney, you want to throw one on the table?
Sure. It's the connectivity between
Sorry,
Fredericton and
Mr. Chair, I didn't mean to overstep.
And where?
Nashua.
Okay, so Fredericton, Nashwauk, the population served is 72,380. You get a population score of 45.5 of 50. What's the cost estimate roughly?
I don't know if we've ever come up to that point yet, but you know, say 500,000.
So on a 500,000, you're not gonna be able to get more than 250 in any event, okay? Because it's $1 for dollar contribution on this fund, right? And this particular event, you will be receiving, once the hopper is, I can only give you the exact number once the hopper is established, when all the applications are in. So if it was the only project,
There's a bigger pot.
you know, exactly, the more project, the less money you get, right? If it's the only project, you would get 250,000, right? Up to half of that, because there's 380 to distribute. But the more projects in the hopper, obviously the less contribution. And then you go further down, and if your community is, Nashwauk is, let's say, paying 90% and Fredericton is paying 10%, you get 225,000 off this 250. If it was a 50-50, obviously each would get 125,000.
So there's a limited amount.
It has to be $1 for dollar.
I understand that, but is there a limited total?
Yeah.
For the RSSF funding?
Yes, it's determined early on. Right now it's 450, but we can have the exact figure at some point.
And as Mayor Corey says, it can be topped up from other avenues also.
You could leverage this contribution, the 125, and go apply to RDC and say, I have 125, and they could, if there's a program, they can match it.
Any further questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Director Rogers has her hand up.
Director Rogers?
Hi, thanks, Mr. Chair. So I guess I'm just building off of Grant's comment, and then I think John, I think there might have been discussion at that table. I didn't hear all of it, but I was just wondering about the connectivity piece. So what I'm understanding is this isn't necessarily funding the connection piece. This is funding whatever work would be done in each community. Is that correct?
You want to answer that?
I'll go then. You.
Yeah,
Do you wanna-
go ahead, John.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to Director Rogers. Director Rogers, the idea is not to be just funding work in a community. To Grant's piece earlier, it's about connecting or creating access to the other areas. So if it's a blue trail and there's a new access point that's developed, how does that connect you to other other communities within the frame of the CRSC boundaries? Within that, you look at, you go forward on that, and we're looking at things that connect communities. So if there was an upgraded piece between, say, Fredericton and Central York, then that work could be done in Fredericton and Central York to be able to upgrade that piece. Everything that we're looking at is how do we do better connectivity? How do we do better awareness? How do we do better accessibility into the trail systems as well? We have an opportunity here today that not many have focused on, but it's certainly a piece of it. We could look at a region-wide, if everybody was on board, a region-wide signage program, looking at a QR code based, and some of the signage The only direction that we got when I met with the province on that was that the signage must include and equally prevalent, sorry, with the local community. So if we had some signage that was leading around some trails, we have Central York, somewhere in there has to be the Capital Region Service Commission, so that people know that it's all part of a trail connectivity program, and we could even QR map those and have them available. So it all depends on what your community's interests are, where those interests lie, and how that creates greater connectivity with communities in the region. Eventually, it'd be something that we hope to be able to grow over time, and the ownership remains still with the local communities. This is just an opportunity to take that funding and put it in a place where people had talked about would be appreciated to be able to create access points, to create connectivity, to create a project of regional interest, maybe not a regional project, but a project of regional interest.
So I guess I'm just asking, I mean, thank you for all that context, but really the question is just specific to the connecting piece. Like I understand that that work, like they actually connect at a boundary. So I mean, that doesn't cost a lot of money, the actual crossover point. But I'm thinking of the piece that leads up on both sides of each community. And you spoke about Blue Trails. I guess I'm thinking more specifically just when I asked this question of the other trails. I don't, or do we call them green trails? I don't know. Is it like how much beyond like the trend? Like I think of that transition as being a period, like of like a space, like a distance, right? And so and that would be my interest in that. That's a piece, like not the whole, like how into the whole trail system in a community would this fund support? Or is it just sort of say within 500 meters of the boundary between communities, this funding goes towards that. If there's any work done beyond that, then the community has to take that on themselves.
Would you like to elaborate on that?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, the idea here is to enhance connectivity between communities. So if there's a piece of trail 100% within Fredericton, let's say, but it is connected to Oromocto, and the work or the enhancement is being done inside Fredericton 100%, that's still eligible under this funding because it is a connecting trail. It is an existing connecting trail between communities, and hence, if Fredericton is willing to invest the money to improve it, it would be eligible.
But it's kind of all, but it's all for naught if, say, Oromocto in this case isn't connecting isn't doing the work on their end.
Well, that's fine. That's also fine under this program. If Oromocto is not enhancing their section of trail, but you are enhancing your section, then it's still eligible. They could do it on their own time later on, but it is still considered a connecting trail that you are enhancing. Similarly,
okay, but just a second, the RSF funding goes towards that. What other piece of fund? It's just RSF. There's no RSC money that's going into this. Did I understand that?
No, just RSSF.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm good. Thanks.
Yeah, I want to give another example for other communities. If, let's say, New Maryland wants to connect to Fredericton and they're ready for it, or they want to develop an engineering plan for it, and Fredericton is not, or it's not priority at this time, New Maryland could apply to do the engineering design and assessments on their end up to the boundary under this program, and they would get 100% of that money. But they would have to match it, and Fredericton would not be contributing any money in that case. So it's really very, very open, very fluid, as long as the connection is between two communities, existing or new, no matter how much of it is within one community.
Okay, thank you, Jihad. No other questions?
It's a question, kind of a comment. I meant back on John's comment. For us, I don't see that there's anything in this program for us, particularly this year. We have a capital plan rolling out, we have a work plan rolling out, we have a budget. It's very, very finite in finding any extra funding in year always. And we have a plan for our work. Knowing that this is an ongoing project of the Regional Service Commission, I know what the 2028 dates are about, but if it was, you know, if it is to be funded further into the future, then it would become beneficial for us because we would have the time to plan and to plan with the other community or not, I guess, depending on what it looked like, to make it work. But to have we have lots of shovel-ready projects related to tourism and other initiatives in the community right now, but they're going to get done this year, and none of them are about connectivity at this point.
No, I think part of the problem, Director Corey, is some of this RSSF funding it will expire by that date, I believe. Am I correct on that? So that's why that date comes into play. And I also appreciate John Jackson's comment too, that some of us other smaller municipalities, we're already locked into a budget that we don't have a lot of flexibility. And if we go to the planning process, we could spend some of this money for future activation of shovels in the ground. So I appreciate both facts that we're dealing with here, the expiration and the planning stage. So that might be what we need to stick with as smaller municipalities, as we're not quite as anchored in as the two larger ones that are in our capital regions. Mr. Chairman, yes.
And Mr. Chair, just to go back to Director Corey's point, and he's very well versed on all this as chair of the Finance Committee. Director Corey, you're right. And the challenge moving forward for forward-thinking years is if we do this year, this is the pot moving forward for 2027 that we have to be able to demonstrate that we're expending and that we're utilizing, and that if we decide to, I'm talking the royal we of the board, not that I'm part of that, but I'm kind of ex officio. But if the board decides they want to use RSSF residual funding from 2025 in, moving forward to 28, in terms of that amount of money is much more reduced than what we have today in terms of this roughly 450 to 500,000 for the year. So I just want you to know that. I want to be clear with everybody. We would have to have a broader board discussion to look at those future years as to what that funding looks like if communities wanted to come on board and maybe fund that, or if they were only looking at accessing the 50-50 to stack with other potential opportunities. But it's not a continuous $500,000 a year program that we would be able to support moving forward in the future, because our RSSF contributions are grant from the province, if you will, the funding allocation is now it's set in legislation, and it's the same last year as it was for this year. And we've just been better at keeping costs low in our budget processes in the last couple of years to utilize more RSSF to keep the member share low across the mandated services. So I hope that clarifies for everyone.
One last comment, Mr. Chair. It's also not specifically the municipality. I remind you, you can partner with other organizations within your community that they may have some funds, some capital. Just consider that aspect as well.
Example, the ATV club, snowmobile club, etc.
That's just one example. It could be other local marina clubs, or you want to have a not-for-profit, want to establish a small amenity next to the trail. Like there's options there.
Okay. Thank you, Jihad. Appreciate it. I think we've probably covered most of this, but general discussion and directions to staff. Do we have any further direction, or?
I don't know, what is the direction? Do we have a direction?
I don't know what it is as of yet, if we do.
Okay, no, I don't. I mean, we've heard from Jihad, he's given a recommendation, but is that the direction that we're giving to the board? I'm not sure.
So we would recommend Gemtech's expertise to the board? Would that be our direction?
Mr. Chair, if I may, I would say that the direction or the recommendation to the board would be, one, to receive the information provided today. And two, would be to accept the report and accept the funding formula if the committee is satisfied, if there's consensus among the committee to move that funding formula forward, and to ask the board to endorse that funding formula. And then the board would decide that, and we would do that for the AGM on the April 7th meeting, I believe, Kelly, right? Yes, it would be.
So then we should get a consensus here if we move this forward from the committee.
So moved.
We can't make motions, sorry. You're in favor?
Yeah.
Grant?
Yeah.
Okay, John?
Sure, yeah.
And I guess Judy, you're on all
I
committees.
don't get a vote.
You're on all committees.
I'm a guest.
She's yes on this one. I guess we would be looking at the other member, Director Rogers.
Director Rogers.
Kate, are you in favor of
Yes,
this?
yes. Yes.
Director Sharp is gone.
And Director Sharp had to come off, so I guess we have consensus, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so the consensus is we'll move this on to the board and the board will make motions and decide and whatnot, so. Okay, that's our direction to staff today. Can I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Ready, do I have a second?
Seconded.